EcoFlow Power Kit Gen 1. I am going to be the sole proponent for Gen 1, I think. I hope not, though. I love this setup. I really do. The big surprise was the interface, the touchpad. You can literally get all your detailed information on each and every circuit. Usage, real time. Here's the small control panel that comes with Gen 1. It really is amazing, and it's very intuitive. This is battery 1, this is battery 2, this spot is reserved for battery 3. Now this is only one of the screens. I've got 48% battery capacity left with the two of these batteries. That gives me a day and 10 hours based on what's on right now. I mean, if you hit the system, your input, now look at this. These are your inputs, all right? This is solar, that's alternator, solar 1, solar 2, and then the AC, that would be shore power. So this is an amazing system. You can get in, that's your input. Now the output is what you're using. If I click on AC, these are my 6 AC circuits. Okay, so I can see exactly what each one of these AC circuits is doing in terms of power. Then if I switch over to DC, these are my 12 DC circuits. Each one of them, look, 29 watts, 0 watts, 10 watts. Now I've got to rename these 78 watts. So each of these DC circuits, I can see what their consumption is. I can turn them off and on, right? The first 6, I can adjust right from here. I can turn them off and on. Ditto here, look, I can turn off my DC, the whole DC panel. I can turn off the whole AC panel. I can't get over what's involved here. I love it. I love it. This little touchpad is excellent. There's a couple of little preferences you can play with. Very nice. The interface is really nice. And when I think about how I'd have to explain to my clients with a Serbo GX, a Victron Serbo GX, the guy wants to pull into a driveway to driveway surf. And just to lower your shore power from 30 amps to 15 amps, because your friend threw you an extension cord out of the garage, you're nested down 3 or 4 levels in order to make that change on a Serbo GX touchscreen. Like I said, this is Mac, Victron is Windows. Anyway, I'm hoping we do not abandon Gen 1. Gen 1 has its place in the van world. This is my opinion. Gen 2, they addressed a lot of issues that they pulled from customer feedback. Fair enough. Okay, I'm with you. There's certain things in here that I would change. But my point now is I want them to make those adjustments to Gen 1. Don't abandon Gen 1 and focus on Gen 2 because it's got more power. Because we're all racing for more power, right? More capacity. But stop and think about it. You got to charge all that capacity. So are charging routines keeping pace with adding all that battery power? No. There's some things I would like to change on this. Look at this thing. This is very nice. I love this system. And I'm not even using it to capacity. I've got 12 DC circuits. Here they all are. They look like Wagos. And I put in my service loops. See these little loop-de-loops? I leave a little extra wire wherever I go, just in case we've got to make a cut and a splice or do something. I always leave a service loop if I can. So I'm not using this distribution box up to capacity, but it's crowded. Okay, so let's stay with Gen 1. I want you to keep working on Gen 1, EcoFlow. Are you listening? But I want you to make the improvements to this and keep it out in the field. Do Gen 1.2, okay? This distribution panel needs a little bit more room in it for us to run some wires like gentlemen, not a rat's nest. And here, look at this. You see this? This is one of the entry ports for your wires. There's one here. There's one on the other side. There's a couple on the bottom. They're a little too small. Make these a little bigger. You've got the room right there, right? You got the room to make those bigger, so make them bigger. Now, There's a little bit of a workaround that I've done in how I wire a van based on this. Like I said, I've got 12 DC circuits. They're 20 amps a piece. Each of these circuits has a maximum capacity of 20 amps. Now you got all these different circuits running through your van, lights, water pumps, security lights outside, right? If we had to run every one of those circuits back here, all 12, it's a rat's nest. It just gets to be too much. So what I always like to do in my other builds was run a sub panel. In this cabinet here, we have a panel that comes out and we have a sub panel. And the lighter loads were off the sub panel. So I'd send a big heavy line off my bus bar to a sub panel, 60, 80 amps, 100 amps. And then I would spider out from the sub panel, which had its own individual fuses, to the lights and the water pump and whatever else I was running on that DC. And then my heavier DC calls would be on the bus here at the power center. So I made a change. I added sub panels in the van. There's 3 out there now instead of 1. 3 12-circuit sub panels. So I've got 36 circuits out there coming off of just the first 3 here. But they've all got a maximum of 20 amps now. Remember, each of these is 20 amps. So I had to be creative in how I loaded up each of those sub panels with circuits. My spreader lights outside, for instance, my security lights. If I have all 4 of those on at once, that's 20 amps, okay? So that would max out that little 12-circuit sub panel. And I also have my water pump on there, and I've got my galley lights. But this is the way you got to think about things now. If the galley lights and the water pump are in use, the security lights are not in use. They're off. When are they on? In the middle of the night, when you're in bed and you heard a noise, and you want to turn on all those security lights to see what's going on outside. So you're not using the water, and you're not using the galley lights. So you've got to plan each of those sub panels for their intended use, the reality of it. That wasn't a big deal. And that's great in theory. We're going to see how that works in practice. John is going to live full-time in this van. So he's picking it up today, and he's going to go out. I think he'll be out and about the Northeast for about 2 weeks. He's going to go see his uncle. They're going to bop around the Northeast and cover some good ground. You know, they're going to go from the New York, Pennsylvania line to Ohio. Then he's going to go see New Hampshire and Vermont. After 2-3 weeks, he'll come back here with a report on how he likes the van and what he may want to change, anything break, blah, blah, blah. So that's when I'll get to see if he blew any of these fuses. I doubt he will, because I really thought this through. Back to the EcoFlow. Now look at this. This is the main module. Okay, this big box has our solar controller in here. It's got our alternator charger. It's got the inverter in there. It's got the DC. I mean, everything is in this one box. And all you have to do is plug and play, okay? Now, if I did my normal system with a Lithionics battery and bus bars and Victron components, all individual, that takes about a week to do an install. 12 volts, so we're working with 4-aught and 2-aught cable, heavier cables. You know, a lot of van builders are getting bigger and bigger battery banks in their vans, and they're going to need bigger and bigger wire. And 4-aught is what I use. 3,000 watt inverters, 630 amps of lithium. I use 4-aught cable. Doesn't matter how long the run is. This is where I'm getting the most bang for my buck. This stuff is not easy to work with. It's heavy, it's rough, it has a mind of its own. So you gotta learn how to work with it. And what I'm talking about today is crimping. The most important thing about a wire, any wire, is a good solid crimp. If you don't have a good crimp, you're gonna create heat. Heat's gonna create a fire. So, I got my lugs, okay? This is a 4-aught lug, right? Now, in the old days, last year, I was using a hydraulic crimper. You saw me use this tool. It was okay. You know, it's a Chinese tool and it's very inexpensive. You put your lug in there with the wire and you keep pumping and pumping and pumping until you get a good crimp. But crimp, from crimp to crimp to crimp to crimp, how many pumps was that? I forgot. Did I do 6? Did I do 7? I wasn't getting consistency and I wasn't confident that I had an excellent crimp every time. Sure, once I put it on, I do the pull test. I do the pull test with every crimp I do. But still, it was fine. And if you're going to build one van for $70 or whatever this was, it's worth it. But I need consistency and I need safety. I'm building vans for people. I don't want that phone call. I bought this tool by Milwaukee, and this baby is a crimping tool. There's more crimping on lugs, torquing the lugs on the breakers, a lot more breakers, no fuses. So the big argument, the big concern here with EcoFlow Gen 1 or 2 is this is an all-in-one unit. And I've always said, generally all-in-ones don't do any one thing well. I have to change that thought process now. This took 2 hours to install, and it was my first one, as opposed to a week with the other system. Now, when John's out in the field, he's out somewhere remote, something fails, one of his solar legs fails. He's got 2 solar legs here. So he's got to order a new unit, or is this something that can be opened up and replaced? I need to get that information from EcoFlow. But let's play devil's advocate, and you got to replace this whole unit. You pull these plugs. You turn off the power. You pull these plugs. You unscrew and lift this off its bracket. You throw it away. You put the new one on. Lock it in place. Plug these back in. From an end user standpoint, this is a far friendlier system to work with. Now, there's one thing I've noticed with some of my clients. If you're going to do van life, if you want to travel in a van, you got to know how to turn a screw. You've got to have a little bit of mechanical prowess, okay? If you can't do any of that sort of thing, you're going to find yourself in some situations where you're frustrated because you just don't know. You just can't do it. This gets everybody a little closer to that frustration-free lifestyle.